ગુડ ઇવનિંગ, જય માતાજી. આપ સૌનું અહીં જામ સાહેબના આંગણે પ્રતાપ વિલાસ પેલેસમાં ખૂબ ખૂબ સ્વાગત કરું છું. આજે આપણા આંગણે એક એવો અવસર આવી ચડ્યો છે કે જે ઇતિહાસને પુનરાવર્તિત કરી રહ્યો છે. આજથી દાયકાઓ પહેલાં જ્યારે બીજું વિશ્વયુદ્ધ ચાલી રહ્યું હતું ત્યારે પોલેન્ડના એવા બાળકો જેને કોઈ આશરો આપી નહોતું રહ્યું, ત્યારે આપણા મહારાજા જામ સાહેબ દિગ્વિજયસિંહ બાપુ એમણે આ બાળકોને નહીં કે ફક્ત આશરો આપ્યો, પરંતુ તેમને શિક્ષણ, તેમને ખોરાક, પોશાક, માવજત આ બધું કર્યાની એમની એક ઐતિહાસિક ઘટના છે જે બેડી બંદર પોર્ટથી ઘટના શેપ લઈ ચૂકી હતી. આજે ફરી વખત એક એવો પ્રસંગ આવ્યો છે આપણા આંગણે કે જ્યારે સદગુરુ જગ્ગી વાસુદેવ ઈશા ફાઉન્ડેશનના સ્થાપક આપણે ત્યાં પધાર્યા છે બેડી પોર્ટ મારફતે. તો એ આ એક ઐતિહાસિક ઘટના છે, તો આપ સૌ એમને બિરદાવી લેશો. Just take 2 minutes. આપ સૌને ખ્યાલ હશે કે જામ સાહેબ બાપુ જે રીતે અહીંયા ચિત્ર બતાવે છે કે જામ સાહેબ બાપુ પણ પ્રકૃતિ પ્રેમી છે અને સદગુરુ પણ પ્રકૃતિ પ્રેમી છે. તો આજે સેવ સોઇલ અને આશાપુરામાં બંને ભેગા થઈ ગયા છે, તો આ તો કેવો અવસર કહેવાય. બંનેના પ્રકૃતિ પ્રેમે આજે આપણા આંગણે એવો અવસર લાગ્યો છે જ્યારે મહાપુરુષો ભારતની 75મી અમૃત મહોત્સવ સ્વતંત્રતાનો, ત્યારે આપણા નેશનલ હીરોઝને આપણે યાદ કરીએ છીએ. એ તો ઇતિહાસના હીરો, આપણી સામે તો જીવતા જાગતા નેશનલ હીરો આજે ઊભા છે. 27 દેશમાં 30,000 કિલોમીટર 65 યર્સની એજ પર આજે સેવ સોઇલ મુહિમ ચલાવીને તેઓ વિવિધ દેશો સાથે MOU સાઇન કરીને આપણા આંગણે પધાર્યા છે. તો બાપુ તરફથી આપને સૌને એક નમ્ર અરજ છે કે સદગુરુ જગ્ગી વાસુદેવ સાથે આજે રાજવી પરિવાર જોડાયું છે, તો જામનગરની જનતા પણ એ મુહિમમાં જોડાય, સદગુરુની સેવ સોઇલ મુહિમને હજી ગતિ આપે, હજી વેગ આપે અને આપણા વડવાઓને હજી ગૌરવ અપાવે, એવી જામનગરની જનતાને એક નમ્ર અરજ છે. હું એકતાબા સોઢા આજે સદગુરુનું સ્ટેજ ઉપર આપ સૌ સાથે એક વખત જોરદાર તાળીઓથી સ્વાગત કરું છું.
कालो न जानाति तव जननं, कालो न जानाति तव समापनं, दृष्टो मया तव महाकारः योगेश्वर काल काल, योगेश्वर काल काल. Namaskaram to everyone. Wow, it's my fortune that the first step that I take in the sacred land of Bharat is in Jamnagar, as Ektaji was mentioning that when the whole world rejected these children from Poland, the same people who fought wars with them rejected the children. It is here, the compassion of Jamnagar, which accepted these children and gave them a life. So this is the highest level of expression of humanity, which is what we need today. We have divided the world in the name of nations, in the name of race, religion, caste, creed. In how many ways we have divided the world? If we do not understand what is the all-unifying cosmic consciousness, at least everybody can understand that we all come from the same soil, we are all living off the same soil. When we die, we all go back to the same soil. No matter what is your religion, no matter what is your caste, no matter what is your nationality, you go back to the same soil. So Save Soil is not only an ecological movement, it is also a way of bringing human beings together, because as human beings, we have reached such a powerful status that we are even capable of destroying this world many times over. That is the kind of capacity we have. When we have such capacities, when we have such capabilities, it becomes extremely important that we find common factors between us. Rather than picking for differences, it is important we find common factors, and the common factor is definitely soil. Nobody can deny soil is a common factor for all of us. If we get it now, it'll be wonderful. Otherwise, one day when we are buried, anyway we will get it, that we all come from the same soil. It's best to get it now and transform this possibility. This has become a necessity. Who would ever think 100 years ago, who would ever think that soil has to be saved? There was no such thing. But this is what we have done in 100 years, nearly 70 to 100 years' time. We've brought the world to a place where we are talking about soil extinction, that actually soil is moving towards extinction. What extinction means is, a handful of soil, fertile soil, will have 8 to 10 billion organisms. But today, those organisms are dying at a rate that you can't imagine. 27,000 species are dying per year. At this rate, in another 25 to 40 years' time, we will come to a place where we will not be able to grow much on this land, and our populations will be well over 9 billion people. That is a humongous disaster. The problem with us is, we have a very short memory. Just 70 years ago, we used to have terrible famines in this country. Gujarati people should remember famines in the country. There used to be terrible famines. As all of you know, 1942, the Bengal famine took 3.2 billion people… 3.2 million people in 4 months' time. When I say famine, you must understand, famine is the worst way to die for a human being, because it's not like war, somebody is going to shoot you. It is a slow death, 3 to 4 months. It's a slow fade, and it's a terrible way to die for human beings. That was happening everywhere in the world at one time. We got organized enough to overcome that. But once again, the entire world is driving towards a famine in the next 25–30 years' time. This is why Save Soil is very important. I will not go into the details of how to save soil, what to do, but right now the important thing is, we must understand, governments are not elected to do something fantastic. Governments are elected just to fulfill people's mandate. Where is people's mandate for long-term well-being of the nation? In which country have people stood up and said that we are concerned about the long-term well-being of the nation or our children? Everybody is asking for little things. They're asking for tax rebates, they're asking for this discount and that discount. I'm sorry. And they're getting it. It is time that at least 60% of the adult population must stand up and say we are concerned about the future well-being of the nation and the world. Because when it comes to soil, when it comes to soil ecology or organisms in the world, our national boundaries mean nothing. Soil organisms function as a global phenomena. It is very important, it happens everywhere in the world. I'm very happy to tell you that 74 nations have already signed up for Save Soil movement. And I also addressed the COP15 in Africa, and 197 parties who were there covering 193 nations, and groups of people like European Union, Caribbean countries and Commonwealth. All of them have taken soil as a very serious thing right now. Just 4 months ago, soil was not even in the conversation. For the first time, soil has come to the conversation. I beseech every one of you, I request every one of you that you must keep the soil in conversation for the next few months till the policies are made in the world, that people should talk about soil, people should express their concern about soil. Today, every one of you have a smart companion with you. No, I'm not talking about your wife or husband. I'm talking about the phone that you have. You have a smartphone. So when you have such a powerful medium, well, you may be sending some silly messages on it, but this is a powerhouse. If you use it properly, you, as an individual, can reach the whole world. That is the power of what you're carrying in your hands. I want you to use this, and very, very important that we keep soil as a priority for the next few months so that policies can be pushed through. We have written 193 policy documents for 193 nations, depending upon their latitudinal position, economic situations, soil types and their agricultural traditions. We prepared these handbooks and we have given this to all the nations. So this will happen. It just needs people's push. Can I depend on you? That's not everybody. Can I depend on you? If you have any love for your children, this must be done. Because it is not a philosophy, it is not a teaching, it is not a religion that you want your children to live better than you. But right now I want you to understand, we are dismantling the foundations of good life for future generations. If there is no rich soil, right now India's organic content per average is 0.68%. The minimum that is needed to call soil as soil is 3%, but we are 0.68%. We are on the verge of desertification, that's where we are. So if we are really interested in the future generations, because it's intrinsic to you that you want your children to live better than you, when this is the case, how can you sleep through this? Is sleep a crime? Hello? Is sleeping a crime? No, sleeping is not a crime, but if you sleep through your life, you will be a disaster. And disasters are always worse than crimes, I want you to know this. That's what we're talking about. We have this habit of sleeping through our problems and then we enter a disastrous situation and then we grieve over it after it's over. How many times have we done it in the past? Let's not do it now because this disaster will be very difficult to walk out of. Not all of us are going to walk out of it because it's serious issue. Every responsible scientist is pointing out by 2040 or 2045, we'll be producing 40% less food and our populations will be over 9 billion. That's not a world you want to live in. That's definitely not a world where you want to leave your children. Michael.
Sadhguru, wonderful to have you here in Jamnagar, and it's an honor and a privilege to be able to talk to you about soil. Having traversed through 27 nations and having had a wonderful response and certain promises towards joining the Save Soil movement, signing MOUs, Sadhguru, where do you think India stands in terms of the future of soil? You mentioned that we are very close to desertification. What is the sort of action plan if we are looking at it from now, the next 15, 20 years? What is the first thing that people need to address? We will use our smartphones, we will join the movement. Everybody is eager to know how do we contribute? What is everybody's contribution? We won't be doing kitchen gardens, we won't be doing small contributions, but if there has to be a united movement from people themselves, what are your recommendations, Sadhguru?
So today we are addressing urban population. Obviously they are not farmers, but farmers need incentive-based push because farm economy is so fragile. If you touch it, it'll collapse. That's where it is. Not just in this country, in almost every country. For example, in United States, 50% of the farmers have not seen $1 of profit for the last 12 years. There have been whole families shooting themselves. So, farm economy is very, very fragile. You should not touch it unless there is an incentive-based push. Right now, the simple thing we are asking for is, now average is 0.68, in different farms it may be different. If you institute an incentive that all those farmers who get it to 3% will get a certain incentive, and if that incentive is attractive enough, most farmers will go for it. And the next thing is, we are working with global bodies to crack this what is called as carbon credit. So if farmers raise the organic content in the soil, it will sequester a certain amount of carbon dioxide or carbon. So for this, in the world there is a reward.
Yes, absolutely.
That reward we must get. Right now for last 7 years, in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, we've been trying to crack this carbon credit. It's designed against the farmer.
It is.
You just can't crack it. We have used all kinds of our teams working. We have not been successful. So we are asking the global bodies to simplify the carbon credit scheme. Right now it's designed for industry, and we are asking the farmers to go through the same process. It's just impossible to do this. So that should happen, we are working for that. The third thing is, see, today the nutritional value in the food has dropped so dramatically. Even if you're eating a stomach full, you're not getting enough nutrients in the system. One reason why there are so many chronic ailments and there are so many psychological ailments is because micronutrients are absent in the food. Well, not much study has been done in the rest of the world, but in United States it's been found that early 20th century, what nutrients vegetables had, today's vegetables have 10% of that, 90% drop. If you ate one orange in 1920, today you will have to eat 8 oranges to get the same nourishment. So this is what we have done to our food. So if nutrition has to come back, organic content has to come back. So now, instead of labeling food as just organic, which is just a marketing term, see, if you say, this mango is organic, what is the other mango? Is it inorganic? There is no such thing. So if you say this mango comes from 3% organic content field, now we know how much micronutrients, what are the health benefits, what are the preventive health benefits, and many other benefits that are there for the people and the state. So it should naturally find a higher shelf in the marketplace. So for the farmer, it is a three levels of incentives. Initial incentive is by the government, second by the carbon credit scheme, third in the marketplace it must find a higher shelf. So only if there are incentives like this, there will be farmers. Right now 62% of the country's population are farmers, and we have made some kind of a survey and we find not even 2% of the farmers want their children to be farmers. So in another 25 years, who will be farming the land? If you want farmers to be there after this generation, it's important a farmer earns as much as an engineer or a doctor or an IT professional or a lawyer. He must earn as much, if not more. Otherwise, nobody will be farming in another 30 years' time. This is a dangerous situation.
Very well said, Sadhguru. I think the incentives at 3 level are the ones to take note of, and absolutely moving forward, that's the way. I couldn't agree more. The next question I'd like to ask Sadhguru is that how do you deal with a mindset? Because I always find, in society, once you start something, it gets a certain momentum, everybody joins it, everybody wants to do something about it. But always after the high is over, people feel that it's somebody else's responsibility. So the urban people always feel that it's the farmer who should be producing. It's not our responsibility. We only go to the supermarket, we pick up the mangoes, we pay for the mangoes, and it's not my responsibility because I'm not directly connected to the farmer. So how do you combat that sort of mindset, urban mindset, that whole in whole, everything is connected, everything affects you? How would you address that?
So if it's a problem of forgetfulness, then I think somebody asked me when I was in, Tbilisi in Georgia, somebody asked me, Sadhguru, we are forgetful, what should we do if we want to remember this? I said, it's very simple, tonight, instead of… So food comes from soil, hello? Does everybody know this? Or are you that young, you think it comes from Swiggy? No, it comes from the land. So, just one meal, just tonight, your dinner, instead of food, you just eat soil, you will never forget it. You will remember.
Brilliant.
Forever.
I'm going to send out packets of soil after this thing is over. Everybody, please make sure you'll remember it very, very well. Sadhguru, you mentioned in the press conference, and it's a sort of heartbreaking observation as well. And it literally brings tears to eyes, whenever you fly, you take an airline flight. Out of the window, you mostly see a dry, barren land. You mentioned that Western Ghats and some of the few tidbits which are very green and sort of, nice to look at. But apart from that, flying across India, it's a very heartbreaking sight. Kaveri calling has been quite a success. How can we learn from this? And what can we do to bring back that green cover back to India?
I must share this with you. Most of you would have heard of Rally for Rivers and Kaveri calling. Rally for Rivers as a movement was just 29 days. I drove from southern tip of Kanyakumari to Himalayas. In 29 days, 162 people in this country stood up and gave their voice. Because of that, a policy document we had written, which is 760-page document, was accepted as official policy. And right now, that is the recommended policy for all the 28 states. Never before in the history of this country, a private agency has written a policy which has been accepted. So after that happened, we knew that we had to manifest something on the ground. So we started Kaveri Calling. Looking at the success of Kaveri Calling, the 5 UN agencies became our partners because this is the largest program like this on the planet. There is no program this large scale happening in a meticulous way, properly documented. Kaveri Calling is one project like that. Looking at the success of this, Government of India made a detailed… Can I have something warm to drink, please? Looking at the success of this Kaveri Calling, Government of India made detailed project reports for 13 river basins. Kaveri Calling accounts for 83,000 square kilometers of Kaveri basin and 5.2 million farmers who live and work there. So looking at this, they made 13 detailed project reports for 13 river basins, which covers 67% of India's agricultural land, or 67% of India's geography actually. Now, we have been pushing the government to act upon this. Just now when I was on the tour, when I was somewhere, I think when I was in Bulgaria, I got the news that Government of India allocated 19,000 crores for these 13 river projects. So this is the way government policy works. But to get to that point of fund allocation or budget allocation to the river basins, it took me 11 years. 11 years of constant work. So I'm saying, if you are not ready for a long haul, you can't do anything significant. This is something we must remember. And as I said, this is not somebody's teaching, This is not a religion, this is not morality or philosophy. You want your children to live better than you, that's an intrinsic feeling in every human being. If that is alive within you, you have to ensure that soil in this country is regenerated in the next 10 to 15 years' time. Otherwise, we will be heading for a very bad situation.
Sadhguru, I won't keep you for long. I know you have places to go and things to do. But perhaps just one or two questions, one light and one slightly heavy, if you don't mind. What is the message for youth of tomorrow? If there is one message, a long, nice, proper message if you'd like to deliver for the youth of tomorrow, what would that be?
Youth of today or tomorrow?
Today and tomorrow, both.
Youth of tomorrow means I have to talk to the babies. There, that guy sitting there. That is youth of tomorrow. Behind him is youth of today.
Because that's who we educate, Sadhguru. We've got 10,000 kids in our schools.
Yes.
So that's the youth of tomorrow that we're educating. And along with me, the whole of Jamnagar and the community is joined in such a way that we would love to support you. What is the message for us?
See, today, personally, children below 15 years of age, I would not like them to be worried about any concern of the future. They must eat well, play well, learn well, grow up well.
See, that's a popular one.
It is not for me to make them fearful that tomorrow is going to be bad. I think it's already who are adults who should do this, because it's our generation which has done this. UNFAO said something which deeply pained me, is they said, the food that we are eating today, I want all of you to remember this. Tonight when you eat your dinner, the food that we're eating today actually belongs not to us, not even to these little children, belongs to the unborn child. An unborn child means the most defenseless life, but we are eating up the food of the unborn child. Are we that kind of human beings? That's all I'm asking you. Are we that kind of human beings? We'll eat up the food of the unborn child and make sure they don't have any food to eat? That is where we are going. If we remember this, we must ensure that we put this back into the earth, because soil has to be replenished. To replenish the soil, you need plant life and animal life. Without this, you cannot enrich the soil. Everybody should remember this, because machines can plow the land, machines cannot enrich the soil.
Sadhguru, so we are into education here in Jamnagar. You know, under me we run 6 schools and we got more than 10,000 kids. One of the questions that really bugs me over the years is that everything that is offered in a curriculum, I sometimes find that children are genuinely not interested.
I'm not interested either.
Neither was I ever. I was the worst student ever when I was in school. I was beaten up, I was thrown out of the class and all sorts of things. So genuinely I have this doubt about education and the curriculum that the government sets. But through the life of a child from the age of 5 to 20, 23, when they finish their education, I find that they're hopelessly lost because of the curriculum not doing the guiding path, the teachers being able to do something but not greatly so because of the lack of a proper directive. Sadhguru, is it not important that we redefine, it's time that we redefine education that is relevant to the 21st century, to how the world is changing, you know, how we are using social media, how we are learning through technology, and how COVID has completely sort of shifted our direction in terms of education. What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not about 21st century, it's not about COVID. A human being comes like this. See, there are parrots flying. When a parrot is born, it need not think, well, whether I will become a good parrot or not. If a tiger is born, it need not think whether I'll be a good tiger or not. If they eat well, they become good tigers. But that's not the way a human being has come. A human being has come largely unformed. For other creatures, I would say 90% of their life is determined by nature, only 10% by their individual capabilities. But for a human being, only 10% is determined by nature, 90% is in your hands. So a human being needs nurturing. A human being is not to be put into an industrial system of education. Right now, education is an industry that you put everybody through the same extruder and you expect them to come out in the same shape and size. So, this is very important. I know this will be a very unpopular thing to say, but let me say it, what's my problem? Because I'm not standing for election. I can say what is true. I'm saying every young person must decide, can I give enough time to my child to nurture my child into a wonderful human being? If I don't have that kind of time, let me not have a child. You must decide this. Because if you cannot nurture a child into something better than yourself, hello? You must make your children something better than yourself. If you cannot do that, you think just by throwing them into the school something is going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. Education system, I cannot talk about it because we have such a mass of children. Transforming education system is not easy. You can do niche kind of schools where certain number of children can go through, but for the mass of millions of children in India who need education, we cannot do that. So I would put it on squarely on the parents. You must decide this before having a child. Are you ready for a 20-year project? If you're not ready for it, you should not have a child.
Okay, one last question and then I won't bother you much after that. Sadhguru, this is a slightly different direction of a question. I've read quite a bit from your books. I have seen a lot of the YouTube videos, a lot of the app, the content, the episodes, the wonderful things that have been said and done. One thing that always bugs me is, a lot of the enlightened beings, once they get enlightened, they leave.
They're usually dead, I'm alive, that's a problem. I'll also go one day.
But Sadhguru, you got enlightened at a very young age and you decided to stay. And the fruits of your stay, all of us here, across the globe, it's very visible and it's a great honor, privilege and a blessing to have you amongst us walk this earth. So can you, Sadhguru, tell me please, what is the difference between those enlightened beings and you not leaving us, which is wonderful?
Many of them did not leave, they worked, but in ancient times they walked. I'm riding a motorcycle, so I'm much faster, but they had to walk. So this was in Chennai and I was supposed to go for a conference and somebody else was driving and they were driving too slow. In Chennai, if you don't drive aggressively, you won't reach any place. And I have this problem that I have never been late for a single event in my life. So I asked the driver to get off and I got in and drove aggressively and you know, in these hotels there is security gates. I went through the security gate without stopping, went parked there, ran into the place and I spoke in the conference and I came out. Then some journalists were asking me, oh, you know, yogis in the past used to walk, you drive your own car. Then I said, you fool, in the ancient times everybody used to walk, not just the yogis. Now everybody drives and I drive little better than them, that's all. Thank you. So because of that, reach is more. Thank you.
On this occasion, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Jamnagar, thank Maharaja Jam Sheb of Jamnagar for giving us his beautiful palace and making this event possible. Also, Sadhguru from the Isha Foundation for accepting our invitation and coming through Jamnagar. Sadhguru had an option of coming through Mundra. We somehow persuaded Sadhguru to come through Jamnagar, not Dwarika as well. So Sadhguru, on this day, we are very, very grateful.
Thank you very much for having me here. Can all of you in one voice, when I count 1, 2, 3, can you say save soil? Huh? 1, 2, 3.